Hey, welcome back, and thank you for tuning in for chapter 1 of the 4 relationships seeking connection in a world of disconnect. If you missed my intro, go back and watch that. But today we're going to read chapter 1. My name is Korinn S. Hawkins. I am a mom, a widow, an author, and a meditation teacher. And here we go. Chapter 1 is titled Connection, the Medicine of Relationship. I was a wounded, sad-eyed 16-year-old leaving a New Year's Eve party to sit alone in my car and wait for the flannel-wearing 17-year-old boy, more interested in the loud excitement of the party than in leaving with me. I was tired and ready to go home. He could not pull himself away. The draw of the party scene was too intoxicating. I had been sitting on the couch in the living room quietly watching people in the kitchen. Having told him several times that I was ready to go, he knew I was waiting on him. And yet there I sat, feeling the letdown of not being enough to compete with a good party. Finally, I got up and walked over to him, leaned down to his ear, and said, "I'm going out to the car. If you want to ride, you need to come out now." And I left. I didn't even give him a chance to reply. I was his ride, so he had to come out, right? I was taking a bold step and trying to push him to make the decision that I wanted him to make. Now or never. Let's go. We had been yo-yoing, breaking up and then getting back together for months, and the strings of attachment were wearing thin. We were in the strange place of letting go and holding on to the time put in over the last year and a half, where our lives had become intertwined. We went to school together during the day, and when I wasn't working after school, I was usually at his house or driving around with him to hang with friends. Holding on to the love, and at the same time letting go of the love, is such a complicated place to be. But in moving closer towards letting go, I was letting go of the dysfunction, the hurt feelings, the immature manipulation, and the hope of things getting better. Sitting alone in my car, letting the engine warm up in the wintry night, I was feeling that I had a different place I should be. He had not followed me when I left the kitchen, so I sat a while longer in the driveway, thinking maybe that would change. I listened to the radio as I watched the snow softly come down and melt into droplets on the windshield, and then something mystically fortuitous happened. The radio channel changed by itself and settled into Soul to Squeeze by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I whipped my head to the right to look straight on at the radio, sitting there staring in shock. My attention was grabbed, and I listened intently. Where I go, I just don't know. I gotta take it slow. When I find my peace of mind, I'm gonna give you some of my good time. I felt a sadness release in my heart. As I dropped my head and closed my eyes, the song was singing my life to me. I felt myself sitting at a crossroads of the unknown, making the choice to leave behind a person, a way of being, a repeating pattern that was no longer working for me. I was unsure of myself, but lifted up by the idea that when I get to where I am going, things would be better. Clarity was ringing like a bell in my mind, telling me it is time to do something different with your life. What I chose to do in the next moment was to put my car into reverse, back out from where I was, and move in a different direction, away from the night and away from the way in which I had been in relationship with the other person and with myself. I not only felt, I knew it had been the hand of God that reached through, changing the frequency of the radio as if to say, "Listen here, little one. I have something for you to hear and something for your heart to feel." An ending and a beginning. I took myself back home that night, not only to where I lived, but to where I needed to be, home within myself, coming into alignment with my inner, wiser self as I recentered my priorities and put myself first. As I think back to that time, I'm in awe of the sudden sense I had of how to steer my own ship, and I'm grateful for the inner call to do so. Into uncharted territory I went, with a sad but hopeful heart, choosing me over we. I was able to maneuver out from under a thumb that had been holding me down. I began to place more value on who I was and became stronger in doing so. I felt a strength to withstand any coercion to turn in another person's direction that was not my own. With more self-connection, more connection with God, better standards for human relationship, and an openness to see what the world might bring, I held the authority to change course and set the stage for what was to come in my life. During this time, I was ready to shift out of an immature relationship, to not be held by it, but to instead grow because of it. Starting in a place of not knowing where I go, but hearing peace of mind as the theme song calling out to me, I moved forward in life. This lyric resonated as life began to dance through me in a stronger way. Do you ever hear that little whisper telling your heart you need a change? No matter where you are in life, you are never without the potential to steer in a different direction. And finding the direction you want to be steering towards takes awareness, honesty, heart, and sometimes it takes letting go. Can you hear the song? Where I go, I just don't know. I gotta take it slow. Can you feel life dancing through you? Saying that when you get to where you are going, you will have goodness to share from where you came. Defining relationship. As a young girl experiencing my relationship with everything that night, I was open to feel the earth and its quiet, snowy scene wrapping around me as I heard the nudge of God and the calling from within myself to be in a new relationship with others. Relationship is defined as the condition of being connected. There is much we are connected to in life, and the condition of our connections vary. Connections can be distant or close, suffocating or liberating, orienting or cause disarray. One thing that can be said about all relationships is that they are ever evolving. Sometimes they are catalysts propelling us forward, sometimes stagnant vices holding us back. Sometimes relationships feel secure and cozy in ways you never want to part with. But they are always a source for growth and awareness if you are open to learning. Through your life experiences of beginnings and endings and ups and downs, you can arrive in a place of realizing that there is much to learn and that goodness and growth can come out of change and challenge. Relationships are the framework through which you grow and move through life. Relationships are never one-sided though. So let us now look at the structure and nature of relationship. To form a relationship, there are always at least two things relating to each other. And just as life is not meant to be a cakewalk by design, relationships are not always easy. They can sometimes feel like a tangled mess. You may have played a part in the tangling, even if passively. Yet you can always take a hand to the untangling too. To do this, it helps to step back and have a wider view. And this is the part in the book where we're going to start doing, oh my gosh, can you see that? Awareness exercises. So, I think I'm just going to read through it, and I encourage you, if you want to like pause the video and practice the awareness exercise, go ahead and do that. When we get to the sections that are time for insight, you feel free to pause again, and if you have a notebook or a journal that you are using to enhance your experience of this book and give yourself that time to reflect and bring your awareness inside of yourself so that you can be more connected to yourself, to your life, and strengthen that muscle of knowing how you are on the inside, I highly recommend you, get a journal, get a notebook, and just do those exercises too. Because they are meant to give something from you to you. So, but anyway, that was a little bit of a tangent. I'm going to now read the awareness exercise. We don't usually think about it this way, but you are literally in relationship with everything that surrounds you right now, including where you are sitting. This exercise is an opportunity to explore this connection. First, feel your feet, legs, your bottom, and back all in position against where you are sitting. You are in relationship with the earth, the physical matter that is the chair or the place in which you sit. Now, think about how it is that you came to be sitting here in this place. How did things align so that you could carve out some time to sit and read a book? Here, now, just for you. You are in relationship with yourself. How did this book come to be in your hands in this moment, in this place? You are in relationship with others. Even further back, how did you really come to be so that you could be here as you in this chair on the earth today? You are in relationship with God. And all of this is wrapped up into one simple moment. Your life is incredible. Changing how to look at relationship. I have been able to have moments through the course of my life where I could step back and see a bigger view. Moments where I think deeper, stranger even. Sometimes it is something simple that then catches me and causes my mind to float away, volleying between wonder and logic. One warm fall day, for example, I was sitting at the old maple table in our sunroom, the perfect spot for school work and writing. As I was working on one section of a chapter in this book, my eyes kept glancing up and out of the windows that lined the front of our house, noticing the day was waning as the sky was starting to shade itself in pinks, yellows, and oranges. Randomly, a thought came to me about how the sunset is never ending. And with that simple thought, down the rabbit hole I went, contemplating how the sunset keeps wrapping itself around the world in a continuous band of gorgeous color. My mind led on, taking me a bit further into thinking about how this happens over and over, day after day. In this quiet moment of pausing from the task at hand and being with my thoughts, another notion layered in as my awareness expanded to realizing that it is always sunset and sunrise somewhere in the world. I thought about how it is really two bands of light coloring and circling our world over and over. They are chasing each other but never meeting. Or wait, maybe they meet where the two sides become one? I wonder if they meet at the top and the bottom of the earth and connect there. I wonder if the sunrise and the sunset are really one thing. I think further still, picturing an unbreakable chain of light that just holds steady as it is actually the earth that is moving. My thoughts were getting away with me in a beautiful sort of way, allowing time for reason and wonder to meander through together and curiosity about the way things are. This is how my mind works sometimes, which I feel helps expand the scope of my view. Having these contemplative thought chains can open our eyes to seeing the relationship between things a little differently. In this case, the connectedness of the sunrise and the sunset and its continuous, steady beauty. Having this built-in curiosity and the ability to take a step back allows us to look at things that are more complex, less definitive, things that aren't as easily provable through Google research, like the meaning of death or what really happens when we die. There are times now when I sit on the front porch in my rocking chair next to Corey's that now sits empty, and I think of him and his death. On days like this, as I watch the sunset softly sweep in, its gorgeous colors soothe and hush the day into my soul. I think about some of the last words I said to him. In the hospital, as I held him for the last time, in the moments before his soul was ready to lift from this life, I put my lips against his ear and whispered, "We'll be together again, baby. When I die, let's meet on the beach at sunset." I've played this meeting over and over in my mind so many times. I can see him there, standing in the ignited light of the sky against the water and the sand. There are 2 wooden beach chairs there for us to sit in and catch up, like we used to do here on our front porch, with the sunset shining down on us. In those moments when I sit and watch the light of day come to an end, empty chair beside me, I wonder if there is a reflection of the workings of death echoed out in the light of the sunset. I look out at the color and can almost feel it as the light of heaven's love radiating through. As the pink shines through at the base of the horizon, I smile to myself and call it the rose of the sky. I take it in through my captivated eyes and let it land on my heart, as God offering a symbol of His love in its soft pink. Perhaps this band of color and light, in its celestial origin, is not only a part of what brings day and night, but a part of what brings death and life. The sunset as one steady band, and God as one steady hand, passing over our world as the world moves, as life moves in continual beginnings and endings. I am now brought back around to an awareness that I have come to see, an awareness that there is relationship in everything, and how relatedness can be seen when one steps back to a bigger view. In a more internal sense, when you look at relationship being everywhere and with everything, you can come to see that you are a center point for it all. You are at the center of every relationship that you have because you are where you experience it from. You are the body and soul that has the eyes to see, the ears to hear, the heart to feel all of the intricacies that are your unique experience of life from your unique vantage point. And did you know that when you get up, you just might leave an imprint on where you've been? This too is relationship. Relationship, as I mentioned above, is the state of being connected, and you are connected to a whole heck of a lot you think about and a whole heck of a lot you don't. Chances are you weren't thinking about your chair or how it felt against your body until the exercise brought the topic up. And what about the places in your life that you are connected to but never think of? Or those places in your life that you feel disconnected from, but that you are actually still connected to? Bringing awareness to disconnect is important for seeing clearer, so that you can actually become more connected to your life. I feel like I should read that last sentence again. Bringing awareness to disconnect is important for seeing clearer, so that you can actually become more connected to your life. The danger in disconnect. There is a real danger in regards to disconnect, because being unaware is a danger. Imagine it like this. Every day when you come home, you're carrying a big heavy bag. Let's call it baggage. Only let's say you don't pay attention to how your baggage affects your surroundings. When you walk through your door, you have the habit of tossing your big heavy bag, into a basket on the floor. You never look to see how it lands, so you don't notice the damage being done over time. It makes dings and scratches on the wall. The edge of the basket where it lands is starting to become misshapen, and the innocent bystander of a potted ficus tree has one section with no leaves left because it keeps getting knocked into. You don't notice any of this because you are in your unconscious pattern of throwing your bag to put it away. I'm talking figuratively here about things being damaged by throwing your baggage around. But what about when we start talking about people and the effect that unconscious habits or behaviors have? That is when the real damage can be done. What about if we are in unconscious relationship to God and the earth? What damage is happening? Most times, if you pause in your patterning and look closer, you will see where things need to change. You'll see you are digging up your wall, smashing your basket, and disrupting your tree's growth. And you'll realize that that is not actually what you want. Yes, sometimes we are innocent in our unconsciousness, yet still it is a danger because its effect is real. There is disconnect in the world today in general. People are being groomed to be in opposition to others. There is a whole industry developed around how human beings are impressionable. It's called marketing and advertisement. But it also includes propaganda and censorship. It seems the use of human impressionability has taken a nasty turn into making people the commodity. Human attention is being harvested to take a side. Driven like cattle, people are losing touch with the fact that we all are human beings. We all are human beings. Polarization can be unconscious and unintentional, but sometimes it is deliberate with the aim of a conscious manipulation. We see polarization in such places as media, social media and politics, in race, religion, and cultural opinion, and even in medical and health opinions. This extreme polarization is dangerous because it disconnects large groups of people from being open to see that one view is not the only view. It also keeps people from admitting that maybe the view they hold is not without fault. One place I see this is when I turn on the news, where I am aware that there is a consistent pattern of pointing fingers and deflecting blame. Where can the connections be made that are needed to come together for the sake of peace? Sadly, it appears all of this has been fueling division and closed minds, instead of helping people know that they can still be on the same team even when they have differences. But your focus here is just on you. Whew, right? Yet I think that cultivating greater connection in your life inevitably creates a beautiful ripple effect. I also believe it is true that sometimes even when we do look at things, they aren't so clear. After all, we don't know what we don't see. If we are not conscious of what we are missing, then there is no inkling to look. There is fundamental detachment. It could be as obvious as the morning alarm going off to wake you up, but you are too sound asleep, trailed off in the la-la land of a dream, and that isn't the reality you are living in. There is a cost to living this way, detached, unaware, walking through life asleep, or hiding from people, hiding from opportunity, connection, or relationship. The cost is that you are not living a full life. You are living a portion of a life. You are not living to your full potential and not making the impact you are capable of for others, the world, and God's plan. This detachment can affect you physically by making your energy heavy and sluggish, which translates to your physical vitality being degraded. It can affect you spiritually in that the light source of inspiration seems to miss you and you lack a luster for life. It can affect you mentally by adding to social anxiety, worthiness issues, and depression. And it can affect you emotionally by closing down your natural human feelings, which are purposeful and serve a function for your wellness. The flip side of this detachment is engagement. It is in the bravery to face yourself, having the courage to look into those spaces of life that are hard to give attention to because you don't feel connected to them. In connecting, you will gain strength, understanding, and even more connection. In giving attention to anything that you are in relationship with, the relationship is allowed the space to develop. When you grow things with openness, care, and compassion, they become fruitful and beautiful. Unawareness is disconnect. Sitting at home one day, I got wrapped up in getting a chunk of writing done. I had been at it all afternoon, only taking breaks to go to the bathroom or refill my iced tea. Sitting in the brightly lit sunroom at the front of the house, I saw the kids' bus pull up. Next, I saw my son Gavin walking up the driveway. I tried to peek around the blind spot of the window to see my daughter. I couldn't see her, but thought, she must have gotten off. She's probably just walking in the yard somewhere. This was not good. When Gavin came through the front door, I asked, "Where's Marin?" "Where's Marin?" he said. That's when it hit me. Oh no, I was supposed to pick her up from school. I had been so engrossed in my work that the time slipped away. It was 4 o'clock, and I was supposed to have picked her up at 3:15. As I grabbed my keys, threw on my shoes, and fumbled with my phone to try to call the school, I felt frazzled, scared, saddened, and embarrassed. I had been taken over by living unconsciously. One-track minded, I didn't even notice the clock or think to check it. By the time I got to the school, I was in tears, so sorry that I had done that to her. As soon as I got to her in the office, I hugged her and told her, "I am so sorry." She told me, "It's okay, Mom. Everyone makes mistakes." Her forgiveness and compassion were medicine to us both. Your forgiveness and compassion for yourself in hard areas of disconnect can also be medicine. This is why the healthier your connections are, the more cohesive you feel in your life. The connection smooths over your rough edges and heals you. Being unconscious and making mistakes is what it is, something to work on. Being conscious and apologizing or conscious and forgiving is its powerful opposite. Consciousness is connection. The perception of detachment or disconnection is not the ultimate truth. The ultimate truth is that you are still connected to that which you feel disconnected from. I was disconnected from remembering to pick up my daughter, but that didn't change that she was still there to pick up. We sometimes forget to give attention to our emotions or life circumstances, but that does not make them go away. But let's take a step back for a moment and simplify things. Think back to the awareness exercise you did of noticing the place you are sitting. Now think about how 2 minutes before that, were you consciously aware of how your body was resting against the space you take? Or were you in your mind thinking about other things? Me too. But did the fact that you were not consciously aware of how your body felt against the seat make the connection any less real? Did it make the underlying subtle relationship of your body to the chair any different? No, it did not. This is a glimmer of something bigger. How your quality of conscious relationship is what makes up your life. Again, bringing you to be the central core of all of your relationships. Your awareness or conscious vantage point comes from only one set of eyes, yours. And with the right eyes to see how the connections in your life are important to your very being, you can feel depth, richness, and support through your actively lived experience of connecting. There are 4 connected areas that make up the total of all relationships you could ever have in life. I will be using the 4-leafed clover as a symbol to express this. Think of yourself as being the 4-leafed clover. Each leaf is an aspect of relationship. The 4 relationships are with God, with yourself, with other people, and with the earth. Each of the 4 relationships are a dedicated area, all their own, but they are also each connected at the center of things. In their connection, they together make up the whole of who you are. But more than that, these 4 relationships together are your lucky 4-leafed clover. With them all, you have something special that is meant to bring goodness into your life. Okay, now we're going to do time for insight. So if you have your journal, get it out and pause the video as you need to write down your thoughts. That's important. It's important to connect with yourself in this journey of a book so that you can grow and have more meaningful connection and have more connection that's going to soothe and give back to your depth and richness of living your life. Good stuff. Time for insight. Take some time now to get a personal gauge of your current connectedness by opening up your journal and jotting down your thoughts. List who and what are the things in your life. Your relationships are more than just with people, so be sure to list both by making a column for who, people, and a column for what, factors. Ask yourself, do I feel close or distant from each of these connections? Write a plus mark by each that you feel close to and a minus mark by each that you feel distant from. For those where you put a minus mark, ask yourself, do I feel disconnected to the point of feeling like there is no connection there at all? If so, put a circle with a line through these ones to express a feeling of no connection. Now look at the ones that you marked as feeling close to you and ask, does this give me a sense of wholeness? Circle these ones. Each circle is symbolic of connection. The open circles show there is openness in your connection. The circles that have a slash through them show that you are closed in your connection. What you are looking at, what is staring back at you from this page in your journal, is how relationships impact your life as the framework you grow in. Some of the connections here are open for growth. Others are closed off from allowing growth. In general, a person either grows towards wholeness and connection or is fragmented in disconnection. Connection has the ability to join together pieces, while disconnect severs pieces from the whole. I applaud you for taking the time to get in touch with where you are starting at in relationships. Diversity in relationships. Each relationship is different, Yet all have a purpose in your life. How can you expect positive change in how you relate inside yourself and outside if you do not open up a dialogue of conscious awareness to hear what connections are prompting you to grow, which are falling stagnant in latency, and which are simply treasures of heartwarming comfort to hold? Each relationship has purpose to grasp. Relationships are as diverse as the trillions of cells in your body. In fact, let's take the body as an example. At a glance, each cell has the same general biological composition. These include cell membrane, a nucleus, and cytoplasm. But in function, each is carrying out miraculously diverse and purposeful acts of life, such as cells for breath, for heartbeat, and for mind and feeling. Each cell is individual, yet functions as part of a whole. Could it be that we cannot function as a whole without coming together in our individual functions? Could it be there is purpose in our individuation and our widespread locations and specializations? How could there not be when this is the design of life down to the cellular level? Differences together. Relationships are as multifaceted as the specialized cells in your body. Some enable you a breath of fresh air, some get circulation or movement pumping through your being, and some cause a sharp pain if a nerve is set off and inflamed. The breath of fresh air could be related to a moment you finally get to yourself to sit down and enjoy something just for you. The movement pumping could be the Earth's global social unrest that is crossing over into your life and motivating you to act for a larger purpose. The sharpness could be that person in your life who causes you a little twinge of, oh no, when you see them, triggering a response of closing off. Duality and relationship. To simplify the complexity of relationships, we are going to look at them as dualistic or two-sided in one specific dimension, connection. Picture one coin. It has two sides, but the coin is still just one thing. The coin is relationship, and the two sides are connection and disconnection. As they are opposite states of connectedness. But both sides are relationship. The relationship you have with any given thing is either one supportive of connection or of disconnection. The example of getting time for yourself as a breath of fresh air, that is connecting. You are fostering a chance to connect with something that gives you joy. In the example of the Earth's social unrest, getting your blood pumping to take action, that could play as two different qualities of flame to the same fire, depending on your level of openness. It could play to the quality of flame being illuminating light, supportive in connecting you to like-minded individuals who stand for the same ideal. But it could also play to the destructive quality of the burn of the flame and being supportive to disconnection as you enter into the polarizing or warring mindset of us versus them. And in the example of feeling a sharp twinge when someone bothersome to you appears, you close off from being open to the moment because you contract against the discomfort you have previously felt near them. This disconnect does what disconnect does, divides you and keeps you from feeling whole or from seeing that someone else is. The truth of unity in duality. When it is forgotten that one is always in connection, you see the world with more duality than unity. Unity is that sense that everything is connected. When most people think of duality, they think of everything being in opposition, but that's not entirely true. Do you know that we have a perfect symbol that expresses duality held within oneness? It is the yin-yang symbol from ancient China, known as Eastern Taoism. When I was a teenager, known in Eastern Taoism. When I was a teenager sitting in class in high school, uninterested in what was being taught, I would half listen and half focus on scribbling designs on notebook paper with my pen. I used to doodle things like peace signs and yin-yang symbols. I would draw the circle, then separate it with the curvy line through the middle. Then I would make 2 little circles in each half, being careful to only shade in one of the circles and one of the halves on opposite sides. This symbol was familiar to me, but I had no real concept of what I was drawing. That knowledge came later in life when I started down the path of learning about energy. Then what I learned was that this symbol is a directional view of how oneness is separated into duality. It illustrates how all is one, and that everything in the one has a purposeful balance of opposites existing within it. I have a diagram here that I'll show you, or illustration, I guess. On the one side, it says oneness, and it's pointing to the same image, but separated in duality. There is a complementary Western concept that is a directional view of bringing duality into oneness. It is in Christianity and bringing the dualistic human heart, capable of good and evil, to oneness and loving God. In the Christian model, this also brings a person into oneness by being a member of the body of Christ, or God, on earth. Interestingly, there are also 2 components that make up this symbol. This parallel was made evident when the 2 broken down components of the cross were shared with me by Kevin Nefero as I was training with him to become a spirit-level acuenergetics meditation instructor. He talked about the ancient practice of the mystic cross meditation that works to open up the energy centers of the light body. He taught how the symbol of the cross is the unio mystica, the mystical union of man and the divine. The horizontal line is symbolic of our earth connection, and the vertical line is symbolic of our heaven connection. The 2 opposites combine to make the Christian symbol of unity, the cross. And I have another diagram. So it shows you how the 2 lines are separated in duality, and then it points to when they come together, it's oneness. In their simplicity, the cross and the yin-yang symbol each echo the same thing, the existence of duality and unity. Yet in their complexity, they are in seeming opposition as constructs of thought to follow and live by. The one is the 2 are the one. However, both are each a side on the same coin, and that coin is the spiritual experience of being human. The experience that oneness is separated in us in our duality, but that actually at the same time our duality is what brings us back into wholeness or oneness. The sameness connecting us is that we are all spirits being human. We all have human duality, and we all have spiritual oneness. There is the one, there is the source to life, and all are a part of this life source. So it can be said that you are both the same as the source and different from it. Is rain any different than a river? They both are water. One is the source and one is the location. Duality and oneness. Wholeness in duality. Duality and oneness. Wholeness in duality. That they're existing together. That there's parts, and the parts are the whole, like the symbols. Take another look at the yin-yang symbol as duality and wholeness. There's the yin side, which is black with a white dot, and the yang side is white with a black dot. The reason there is a little bit of the other in each of them is because there is no separation. The two sides exist together. They are not mutually exclusive. They are dependent on the other for movement, for motion, perhaps even for existence. Night chases day, awake follows asleep. What goes up must come down. Boy meets girl, the sperm and the egg, the yin and the yang are what makes the world go round. Negative things can inspire positive actions, and sometimes positive things can be crushed by a negative. Now bring your attention to the wholeness. The two sides together make up the whole. Show that here. Duality, making up wholeness. It is the good and the bad, the day and the night, your pain and your love that are whole together. Heaven and earth are really not so far apart because in true essence they are one. Heaven and earth are one in God, and God is the one. In general, yin is regarded to be female, passive earth energy, and yang as male, active heaven energy. Every person has both yin and yang within them as passive and active energy. To put it simply, every person has both dimensions of passive being and active doing in them. We are all by nature God's doers and his beers. God's yin and God's yang is his oneness within us, but also is his oneness across humanity as a whole, because human beings are his girls and his boys that create the motion to make the world go round and that make it grow in number and in depth. Duality's double vision. Do you believe we are all connected? It sometimes seems like that part of being human is lost. Do you believe what affects one can affect many? We all live on the same one earth, are nourished the same through food and water, and breathe from the same pocket of air contained within our planet. All people can walk in the same way, upright on 2 feet. We use the same muscles in our mouths and throats to talk, use the same capacity of the heart to love. Yet we are so separated, so divided by things we see as separate. These things include physical or geographical distance and mental or emotional distance as well. Yet it is possible for people to circle back to being united in that which makes them different, united in being human, despite human difference. There are 2 potential views to see here, so it is like having double vision. One perspective tends to dominate how you view the world. So, do you see with unity on the connection side of the coin, or with separation on the disconnected side of the coin? Both are there to see. I will use my current situation as an example. As a widow, I am aware that I am now different, with a different view in my mind. I am a single mom in a sea of married couples with families. Viewing this through connection and feeling unity, I can see things with the perspective. This has been so painful, but I feel like what has helped me can be good for others feeling the same way. I want to share what I know and learned from others. The flip side, viewing my world through disconnect and feeling separateness, may have the perspective of, this has been so painful, and I feel like nothing is going to change. I might as well just get used to being unhappy. There is no help for me. Feeling alone and hopeless is something that people feel. But is it how you feel from time to time, or is it how you feel all of the time? Do you keep flipping your coin to the side of connection, seeking where there are others like you who you can learn from and give to? Or are you keeping your coin on the side of disconnect, focusing on how dramatically different your life is from those around you and feeling buried in it? Sameness in emotion. About a month after Corey's death, my friend Pearl lost both her son and her ex-husband in a tragic accident. At the time, I was sunk in my own emotional deep end and was not able to be there for her much. I needed all my energy to be there for my children and for myself. Yet my heart understood. She too had been blindsided and was swept into that downward spiral of loss. Pearl was good about continuing to reach out. We shared some grief resources and loosely kept in touch despite being individually consumed in the fog of grief. During one such check-in, Pearl shared that she had two other friends who also had suffered recent losses of spouse, mother, and father. In her generous spirit's wisdom, she saw how we each might benefit from connecting with each other and felt called to bring us purposefully together for support. She organized a Zoom chat to which I showed up wounded and sad, but open. It ended up that Pearl and the two women I was meeting for the first time gave the perfect space for the relatable connection my soul was craving. Someone to understand. As we each took turns sharing and crying, I noticed the effortlessness of being able to both breathe in another's experience of grief and to breathe out my own. Each of our losses were unique, yet we were all in the tumbling throes of the aftermath and easily connected because of our sameness and feeling raw pain. In that first call, I was made to feel that the grief, though individual, was shared, and that there was comfort. Because you are a part of the collective of human beings on this one wide open earth, you have similarity with others in your feelings. Even the feeling of loneliness is shareable. However, while it is very true that you are in your unique experience of whatever you are going through in your life right now, it is also true that there is someone out there who can relate. There is a commonality in what you are feeling. That can be a connection point. People who are lonely understand loneliness in others. People who are survivors understand the stamina or drive in other survivors. People who are grateful can see what others have to be grateful for. What one can see in themselves opens doors to understanding and connection with others. People may feel connected or disconnected due to differing things, but the way in which people feel them is a program in our humanness that stretches beyond our individualism. It is a collective feeling. If someone says something makes them happy or sad, you understand it because you know from your unique experience what happy and sad feel like. The colors of emotion are all there. The depth of the colors might be different, yet still recognizable in others. Sad is sad, happy is happy. This is experienced, for example, in the phenomena of watching movies that make you cry or make you laugh. You feel that universal emotion that courses through us all. Different things make people cry or laugh, yet all have known crying and laughing. Or just like if anyone gets a nail driven through their foot, they feel pain. You share in global feelings because you share in humanness. There is only one humanity, and you, your neighbor, and the foreigner across the world are all a part of it. Shared humanness in connection. When you feel connected, you feel included. You feel part of something. You feel valued, acknowledged, and inspired in goodness. When you feel disconnected, you feel separate, left out, unworthy, undervalued, unacknowledged, more saddened and angry than inspired for good. Disconnect shows up multidimensionally across social, global, and personal issues. It shows up across people, culture, and land, worship, and belief. Every place where disconnect shows up, separation persists and chokes out unity. But unity is never not there. In disconnect, you just don't see it because it is the coin in its wholeness. You are looking at the two sides and only seeing that either it's heads or it's tails, and missing the wholeness of both sides being there to see. Unity is there, quietly standing in the fullness of what has already been created, you and them, on God's green earth and by the Creator Himself. Disconnection is a problem and leads to problems, but it is only ever just a fragmented version of the oneness that innately is. Similar to how people share in feeling their emotions, we all share in feeling a natural pull towards having human connection. The difference between connection and disconnect. And then I have a little, I guess this is more like a diagram, if you call it that. I'll just read it. Disconnection leads to dissolution, which leads to separateness, where the viewpoint is as an outsider, two sides. Connection leads to integration, which leads to unity, where the viewpoint is as an insider, one whole. Through connection, we are in a state of greater integration and can feel more whole or in alignment with oneness, despite duality existing. In contrast, through disconnection, we are in a state of greater dissolution and feel more fragmented. This creates a skewed view to give more attention to duality versus oneness. Duality is what then cyclically keeps us feeling separate. It's like being in that rut again of feeling stuck and being alone. The feeling of being on our own hardens the heart against letting others in to share life's challenges with. The cycle of feeling alone is perpetuated by actions that reinforce that you stay in that state, not actively seeking connection as your solution. What does it mean to be disconnected? You are at odds with the thing you feel disconnected from. As a human being, you feel disconnected with yourself or a part of yourself, with others, with a role you have, or with a part of your life. For example, you can disconnect from your body and feeling that you don't have the ideal height, shape, size, attractiveness, or physical ability. These aren't things that matter in the big picture of self-worth, but maybe in your disconnect to being whole, you think that they do. And so in the space between being what you are and what you are not, a disconnect is established. And in that disconnect, it is hard to accept yourself and your wholeness because you feel at odds with yourself. God, that's so true. What does it mean to be connected? You are in alignment with the thing you feel connected with. Again, feeling connected can be cross-categorical. You can feel connected to yourself, others, God, and the earth. To give the flip side of the above example, someone who feels connected to their body has an integrated, not dissolving, relationship with himself or herself. This adds to them feeling whole rather than fragmented. Someone who is connected to their body might still see themselves as not having the ideal height, shape, size, attractiveness, or physical ability, but that one little self-opinion does not leverage against their self-worth and self-value. God, I wish that for all human beings. They have a bigger awareness of who they are as a being because they have not separated their wholeness into categories of perfect and imperfect attributes. They are connected into being who they are, letting the things that shine about them shine. They tolerate with love and acceptance the oh wells Oh well, I've got dimples, wrinkles, and crinkles in all the wrong places. My body is my friend because I cannot go anywhere without it. So I value taking care of it and taking care of me. Disconnection is a toxic troublemaker, and connection is a healing unifier. In the state of the world, one can see many examples of the destructive dissolution that comes through feeling separate and disconnection. But the world is just as equally a humbling place to see the integration that comes through connection. And beyond a global perspective, I think all people individually can look at their own personal lives and identify areas where disconnection and connection can be seen. Take a moment here to explore this for yourself and write down your insights in your journal. So we are coming into another time for insight section. So be sure to pause the video and give yourself time to write down. Answering. Globally, where do you see disconnect? Globally, where do you see connection? Where personally do you feel disconnect in your life? Where personally do you feel connection in your life? Both are here, connection and disconnection. They exist together as the Eastern and Western concepts also exist together. Perspective is either unifying or separating. Sorry, there's a little pause. Perspective is either unifying or separating, but the potential to see both is there. Hopefully each difference is purposefully playing off the other to propel you towards reaching the unknown, where you'll find peace of mind and have goodness to offer. There are moments that show up in your life and you have a choice in using them. This is where your journey begins in diving into exploring where you are in each of the 4 relationships that make up your full experience of being a human being. And if there's one relationship that you don't feel connection with, just like the place you sit now, the connection is there. Whether you feel it or you don't. That is a part of the oneness that you can't get away from, even in the face of disconnect. The 4 relationships and you. It was many years ago in my late 20s that the view of our having 4 relationships came into my mind. It likely started as one of my random contemplations that I followed down the rabbit hole. When it came to me in my knowingness, it just made sense, so the notion stuck. I could reason that within these 4 specific areas, all was included, because together the 4 encompassed any relationship we could ever have. It wasn't anything that I shared with anyone or talked about, it was just an awareness stored within me. When Corey passed away and I became unemployed, I was so lost. I felt like there was no ground underneath me to move forward on. I had hopes, but no solid direction. I had applied to get into a dental assisting program, but was waiting to hear if I would actually be accepted or not. In the space of having some open time, I felt life press against me in uncertainty and angst. I was searching for the reasons why, and searching for purpose, and the words in my head were pushing at me to do something with yourself. Don't just sit there and do nothing. Make this time count for something. Don't let Corey's death be in vain. Don't let Corey's death be for nothing. Take something from this time and make good out of it in honor of him. Live enough life for the both of us now. I knew if I didn't do something, I would later regret that I just let this time pass by. So I decided to put myself to work and begin a project that had been in the back of my mind to do someday. I started to write a book. At first I didn't know if it was just going to be therapeutic for me or if I was actually really writing a book. But the more I got into it, the more it felt like it was not just for me, but was meant to be shared. As I continued to write, making good use of this time, this pain, and this experience, the 4 relationships came up within me and wanted to be a part of my story and a part of what is offered to you. So it is from this space of living and learning, from taking the time to give each of these 4 relationships attention through my own experiences, that I can lend you insight. To remedy the problems of disconnect and dividedness that can come out of life's circumstance, you must use the medicine of connection through each of the 4 relationships that make up your wholeness. The 4 relationships are with yourself, others, the earth, and God. They are yours personally and ours globally. These 4 relationships are the master areas in which connection can become like medicine in your life. It's time to get a clear view of where you are in each of the 4 relationships. You are going to rate where you fall on a scale of feeling connection to yourself, others, God, and the earth. In your journal, draw the 4 lines illustrated below. Make a mark on each line indicating where you would rate your level of connection today. Write your percentage above it and today's date. For example, 0 would be if you feel completely disconnected. 25% on the line is mostly disconnected. 50% would be if you feel sometimes disconnected, sometimes connected. 75% is mostly connected, and 100% is fully connected. And here is an illustration of how that looks. Also, if you go to my website, Korinn.com, there is a printable page. It's actually something that would get later at the end of the book, but it's got the same diagram, so you can print it off and use it as well, I think. I don't know, that might not be searchable. That might be on like a hidden page. So I'll just include the link here underneath this video. The 4 relationships and duality. Duality also shows up in the 4 relationships. There is a clear distinction from what sets 2 apart. For instance, the duality between God and earth, God as creator spirit, and the earth as the physical creation, heaven and earth, if you will, or the non-physical and the physical. There is also a dualistic relationship between self and others, the self as a sort of inner mental world, and others existing in an outer emotional world. You will notice that I am simplistically categorizing the dualistic relationships also into 4 dimensions of physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. However, each is much more dynamic than this. We will get deeper into this, but I want to plant a seed here to show you that these are the same attributes we possess that make up our individual wholeness. Every human being is all 4 things: physical, spiritual, mental, and emotional. This points to a bigger truth that each of the 4 relationships together also make up wholeness in their dualistic nature. Although it is easy to see the clear distinction and separation between 2, such as God and the earth, self and others, the dynamic is still integrally connected. The 4 relationships and multidimensionality. So the 4 relationships make up the wholeness of life, and there are also 4 dimensions of being that make up the wholeness of you. As touched upon, the multiple dimensions of your personal experience are the areas of functioning mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. There is integrated connectedness between these dimensions of body, mind, emotion, and spirit, the currency of which that can be relationally exchanged between them all is energy. Energy. I'm going to read that again. Okay. There is integrated connectedness between these dimensions of body, mind, emotion, and spirit, the currency of which that can be relationally exchanged between them all is energy. Energy is energy no matter what. if it is in a mental, emotional, physical, or non-physical form. For example, mental energy could be thoughts and ideas to develop invention and creation. Emotional energy could be having compassion that comforts another in distress. An example of physical energy is food that is broken down to energize you. And an example of non-physical or spiritual energy is magnetism, non-visible energy that has a physical effect through the attraction of magnetic fields. This is also known as the law of attraction, more commonly called chemistry in relationships. Through these examples, you can see that energy can be changed or transferred from one entity to another. Energy is relational and connective in nature. Energy is also everywhere and in everything. Think of energy as a holographic coin of oneness, and the fullness of the coin are the integrated multi-dimensions of mind, emotion, physical, and spiritual. Depending on which side the coin is flipped to, there is also either disconnect or connect influencing them. Since all is connected, the impact is on the whole, not only in one individual dimension, but because you can easily separate them through categorizing bits and pieces of your human experience, they can become a source of disconnect alongside being a source of connection. It is in their connectedness, however, that you will come to see how they are layered into having a more integrated experience. This awareness will emerge as you explore within yourself the 4 relationships. In your self journey, you will increasingly build on how to develop awareness and connection in each of the 4 relationships so that they can become greater supports for you as you navigate your life in its beautiful fullness. If you have awareness and actively build up the area of relationship that is weak, it will ultimately have an overall positive effect on you because nothing is absolute. Nothing moves in a vacuum. There is always a ripple effect to some degree, affecting how you are on every level. Expanding in relationship. As I grew and developed from youth into adulthood, relationship continued to change for me. As I matured, my relationships were able to mature too, and I found myself in a new space and ready for a new beginning. In the summer following my high school graduation, I felt wild and free. Nothing was holding me back, and the wind was in my sails. The world was wide open to me. 2 girlfriends and I planned a trip to Cadott, Wisconsin, to attend a music festival called Rockfest. One hot July morning, we loaded a tent, some food, and our duffel bags full of clothes into my friend Maxine's car, and were off down the road singing as we went. In one day we traveled 12 hours. Our route was north from central Michigan over the Mackinac Bridge, where our tires hummed as we passed over its metal grates. I looked down, mesmerized by how I could see the water through the bridge as we drove, trusting the road to carry us as we went. From there we crossed into the upper peninsula of Michigan and drove the coastline until we entered Wisconsin for the first time in my life. The hills grew larger and the rolling slopes more beautiful. Then finally our destination, Cadott, Cadott, the land we love to rock. It was dark and we were tired when we arrived at our campsite. We unloaded the car and slowly worked on pitching the tent. I paused for a moment and leaned up against the car, tilting my head back to see the Wisconsin sky above. "Oh my gosh, look at the sky," I said. Above us were the northern lights in a complete 360-degree aurora borealis. It danced gorgeously like rolling white plumes of smoke billowing up to the heavens. I was in awe, head cranked back and heart burst wide open. I smiled back at God for the beauty He had created. Little did I know more beauty was to be created in the days to come. On the start of the 4-day festival, I met a tall, gorgeous, dark-haired, green-eyed, 24-year-old man from Wisconsin who would become my husband, Corey. The first night he tried to dance with me, but I was hesitant about being too friendly with him. Later in the night, when he and I got separated from my friends in the "This Bud's for You" beer garden, I nervously said, "We better get back to the campsite." I was not too sure about making a connection with the stranger, but on our walk to find my friends, he made a comment that struck me. He looked over at me as we walked. Our eyes met, as the soft smile on his lips gave me a clue as to what his heart might be feeling, and he said, "I bet you get away with a lot." When he said that, I smiled at him, but looked down at the ground a little surprised. I thought to myself, "You don't even know me. How could you say that?" It felt like a statement that only someone who knew me could say, not a complete stranger like he was. But it grabbed my attention because he was right. I did have a sort of fly under the radar quality and had done plenty that might have gotten me in trouble. Something about him saying that made me feel like he already knew me. It caught me off guard and made me feel a little more comfortable walking in this strange place with someone I had just met. The next morning, my girlfriends and I were standing by the car when Corey and his buddy walked by. They stopped to talk, his friend being chattier than Corey. Corey listened a moment, then turned and walked away. It was in that moment that I had a jolt of waking up in my life. I felt like an energetic bolt of lightning shot through me from above, followed by a thought, I have to get that guy's attention. This was unexpected and a little shocking too. I had never had something like that happen before or since, but in that instance, I understood loud and clear that I was supposed to go after him, and I knew to follow my instinct. By listening to that nudge from God, myself, and the orchestration of life aligning, the rest of the weekend was spent in song, dance, and laughter as we connected as two people destined to become one. On the second evening of the festival, we found ourselves alone again at the end of the night. This time he laid a blanket down in the grass so that we could lay next to each other and look up at the stars. As we did so, a small white blaze shot across the night sky above us. "A shooting star," I said. "Make a wish." He put his arm around me and pulled me in close, softly saying, "I already did." He was forward but genuine, putting himself out there to a girl he hadn't even kissed yet, opening his heart to feel something unexpected, and at the same time, my heart opening too, to feel that unexpected stirring of this golden surprise. By the third night, we stood on the grassy slope to the right of the stage among the crowd of people filling the concert grounds. He looked at me, and I was done. At the same time, we were just getting started. Then he held me close in his arms and gently swayed me side to side in a smooth lead. His cheek rested against the side of my head as he sang into my ear. The sound of the band Journey singing "Open Arms" rang out from the stage, giving him the words to say as he lulled my heart. "So now I come to you with open arms, nothing to hide, believe what I say. So here I am with open arms, hoping you'll see what your love means to me. Open arms." We had only just met, but something bigger than us knew we were supposed to be connected, to be in close relationship with each other for the sake of love. That surprise connection set forth a beautiful ripple effect that still echoes through my life today. You just never know what beauty lies in building relationship and what love is held there waiting for you with open arms. This experience of meeting Corey opened me to be willing to start a new relationship, even with the complete stranger whom I had no connection with and no guarantee I would ever see again in my life. It opened me to be willing to take the dare to live in connection to myself, taking those subtle cues that moved within me and letting them be the wisdom to not let the moment pass me by, to live in connection to others, taking the time to let someone new get to know me and I them, to live in connection to the earth and taking in her layers of gorgeous earthly goodies like live music and long Wisconsin drives and a place to lay your head at night no matter where you are, and to live in connection to God and knowing some things can only be orchestrated by Him, believing that the beauty of what He can create is endless. No matter what stretch of winding path you may be on, a welcome surprise could be only just around the corner. Are you open and listening to life so that you don't miss it? Your chance is now. Be open and let life lead you in this, your dance, to becoming more fully connected in the relationships of your life. Thank you for listening in to chapter 1 of the 4 relationships. I hope you have enjoyed it, and I hope you in some way continue your journey. And if you're hearing some loud noises, I apologize. My kids just got home and they're upstairs. So perfect timing. See you later.